Hi, my name is Mark Bernard. I'm a monetary economist, and in this video, I want to talk about, is the Russian economy collapsing or is it not? Because on one hand, I've been saying the Russian economy is collapsing, look at the ruble, etc. On the other hand, I said, Russia's 100-year plan for victory, their geopolitical focus. So what is it, monetary economists? Is Russian economy collapsing or is it not? We have evidence on both sides. And I have a very specific point I want to make, and I'm going to back it up with data. As you know, I'm an academic economist, published, but I've been studying Russian studies my whole life. In the 1970s, I read Zbigniew Brzezinski's book, Soviet Bloc, Unity and Conflict. It was published in 1960, but it has a lot of relevance for today's ideas. And I will look at first the data. But before that, I want to give a preamble, a little bit of why I'm doing this, because I can think of a few quotes that come to mind. One of the quotes is Martin Luther King said, basically, there's no such thing as a small injustice. Injustice in one place is an injustice for all of us. And obviously, Ukraine has been invaded by a despotic imperial Moscow. Another quote that comes to mind is George Orwell in his book 1984, that he said, my vision of humanity, the vision of the future is this: a boot on a face forever. And even Albert Einstein, he chimed in and he said the danger in the world is not that there's evil, it's that people do not rise to the occasion and do something about it. And my message is, if we want to make this world a better place for our children's children, we have to be the best versions of ourselves so the world can be the best version of itself. Now let's take a look how we can do this and what the data shows us. On the first hand, that the Russian economy is collapsing is pretty convincing. You've got high interest rates beyond the natural rate of interest and the profit rate. Over 20%, you've got high inflation, you've got a falling ruble, you've got falling standard of living, you've got a labor shortage based on a budgetary crisis, not able to pay the workers enough. You've got a misallocation of fund, misallocation of capital formation under Austrian business cycle theory, Swedish Stockholm School of Economics. You've got sanctions, you've got secondary sanctions, thirdary sanctions. So you lose this comparative advantage. So you've got you've got crop failures and USD growing zones for Russia having pressure for various reasons, and food rationing cards. So there's a lot of evidence, as well as user input data from Numbrio, that's showing that the Russian economy is going down, real disposable income is going down. On the other side, I made a claim about a 100-year plan for Russia. They scale it up, command and control economy. That their focus on drone production, high-tech, I don't know what to call it, but computer, GPU, CPU, processing warehouses in Siberia. If you go to MSN pollution map, and you don't believe me, you can see pollutants in Siberia in certain pockets. These are industrial regions. Nothing comes from nothing, right? The Roman adage is. A lot of the industry is being moved east of the Urals to be out of range of any potential threat. So what is happening here? What is happening is simple. If the U.S., Washington, gives Moscow sanctions relief, then the 100-year scenario is in play. Because as long as I've been studying Russia, they don't stop. Muscovy, in the 1500s, 1600s, 1700s, 1800s, and you say, okay, they're just being a country. They're the world's largest geographical country in the world. Imperialist expansionist, territorial gains, controlling puppet. I mean, Slovakia's fallen to propaganda. Hungary's fallen to propaganda. Western Europe is weakening in its resolve according to the latest polls. The U.S., no comment there. The Russians are very effective at massaging the margins of the electoral democratic process to weaken it. So if we first give sanctions relief as part of the negotiation carrot, and that will probably come in the form of light sanctions relief like medicine, humanitarian, agriculture, which is kind of already there anyway, and then secondary sanctions, this will allow the Russian economy to retool and implement their 100-year plan. Now, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the Tsar is there. Somebody else will be there. I mean, think about the Russian Revolution. That was like, 70 years or something of domination. It'll just be another regime from the Tsars to the commissars to the, next quote-unquote president. So the Russian economy will collapse in June, unless 2025, unless Washington bows its head and gets on its knees. Moscow's number one, Washington's number two, and gives them sanctions relief. Now, Moscow's probably said to Washington via its special emissary through Hungary, he visits Florida a lot, I hope you know, and communicates to Florida a lot, I hope you know. You do your world, and we do our world. You chase the Panama Canal. You stir trouble with Canada, our friendly neighbor to the north. My goodness, I went up to the 67 World's Fair. They seem pretty nice to me, those Canadians. You stir trouble up there. You go chase UFOs and drones. And I don't believe in UFOs, by the way. I'm a positive skeptic. And most of that, if you're a computer gamer, can be simulated on a computer game. I can show you how people's minds can be tricked on a computer level to think they are drones for sure. But they're not UFOs or aliens, because that type of space travel probably isn't theoretically possible. Maybe non-temporal or non-linear space travel is, but whatever the distraction that they want to create, the message is you focus on your country under the umbrella of nationalism, and then we do whatever we want around here. And maybe they'll beat the drum against China or something and get Americans chills down their back. But the reality is, if we want to make the world a better place, we're at a juncture in humanity's collective unconsciousness that we all have to come together and stay united. We can't put all of the burden on Ukraine's back to just hold the world together and stick our finger in the dam. If we want to be the best versions of our world and the best versions of ourselves, not have the boot on the face like George Orwell says, or Albert Einstein, wasn't he pretty bright? He understood it. We have to not cave with the sanctions. We have to tighten them. But mark me, we don't know the future. And if I'm ever wrong, correct me. I stand corrected on many issues. Even with the crypto, maybe I was going a little too far with that. But correct me. But my underlying claim is we want to make the world a better place and to be the best versions. If you ever saw Once Upon a Time Disney, be the best versions of ourselves. And that's how we can change the world. And to do that, we have to be strong with these sanctions. So what is it? Is Russia collapsing? Is the Russian economy collapsing? Or is it 100 years more of Moscow's domination? It's both. And the choice, the pivotal point is now. We can let it collapse, and the Russian people may or may not rise to the occasion, but it should collapse. Or we can give sanctions relief under a negotiated settlement, wash our hands from it. But that's not the world you want your children's children to live in. Because slowly and surely, Russia does not want geographical occupation. They want to control and disrupt democracies around the world to fragment them. And we have to stay strong. So, to answer your question, monetary economist, you're such an expert. Is the Russian economy collapsing or not? Yes, it is collapsing now. But will it in January, February, March? It depends on what we do as a world. My name is Mark Gurnon. I'm a monetary economist. Have a great day. Thank you very much.